सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। सच्चिदानन्दरूपाय विश्वोत्पत्त्यादिहेतवे तापत्रयविनाशाय श्रीकृष्णाय वयं नुमः। निगमकल्पतरोर्गलितं फलं शुकमुखादमृतद्रवसंयुतं पिबत भागवतं रसमालयं मुहुरहो रसिका भुवि भावुकाः। जन्माद्यस्य यतोऽन्वयादितरतः चार्थेष्वभिज्ञस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्महृदाय आदिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः। तेजो वारिमृदां यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि। धर्मः प्रोज्झितकैतवोऽत्र परमो निर्मत्सराणां सतां वेद्यं वास्तवमत्र वस्तु शिवदं तापत्रयोन्मूलनम्। श्रीमद्भागवते महामुनिकृते किं वा परैरीश्वरः सद्यो हृद्यवरुध्यतेऽत्र कृतिभिः शुश्रूषुभिस्तक्षणात् शुश्रूषुभिस्तक्षणात्। After that beautiful night called the Maharasa or the Rasa Leela, things continued in and around Lord Krishna's life. Once the entire villagers gathered around Nanda Baba. Ekada Devayatrayam, so they gathered around Nanda Baba and said, I think this Shivaratri we all should go around to this place which is famous for its Shiva temple, and where we can perform both Shiva and Ambika, Parvati ji's puja. So everybody understood that it was a little far away and it was somewhere near the Saraswati Nadi. Hence, they had to pack. In those days probably there were no suitcases, so they had all the luggage packed in, and then the bullock carts filled with all the necessary amenities. It's like a road trip. When you go on a road trip, how do you fill in all your cars with everything necessary? So they had filled everything in. The almost entire villagers, along with Nanda Baba as a lead, they left. Usually the entire Shivaratri we are expected to be observing fast. There are some people who do various kinds of fast. Some people do a very fast fast, that only till the morning puja is done, they are fasting. Or the night puja is being done, they fast. During the puja they fast. The rest of the time they are pretty okay with it. But in an orthodox system, they observe fasting called nirjala, nirjala, without even sipping water. So all the men folk, they reach to this place way ahead of time, arrange for, if you have been what is called Mela. So somewhere there is the villagers or the village head's main temple, somewhere in the forest area. So you go all the way there and camp there. So you camp there, you go 1 or 2 days ahead of time, clean up the entire place, deck the entire place, beautify it, paint it again. So all these villagers had used 2 days ahead of time, they had used up all their time to beautify that beautiful place. And on Shivaratri day they performed the puja. And once they had performed this puja, Ushuhu Saraswati Tire, after having performed, Ushuhu Saraswati Tire Jalam Prashya Dhritavrataha Rajanim Tam Mahabhagaha Nanda Sunanda Kadayaha. All these village heads, along with Nanda Baba, on the shores of Saraswati Nadi, after having performed the puja, everything was done, they had stayed up way till midnight, then partook some water and slept. They were tired. 3 days of continuous work, they were tired, they slept. And that particular place was very famous for one Bhayankar snake, which was a python. Kaschin maha mahihi tasmin vipine ati bubukshitaha. And probably for days together or weeks together, this python also did not have food to eat. It was also starving. Usually the python, Ajgara Vritti, the way they describe it, it's a pretty lazy animal. Unless you want to portray it in a movie, wherein you want to show it as a very dangerous, it's a very lazy animal. So it waits. Even if there is some animal going on, it wouldn't attack. It would wait for almost as if that animal to enter its mouth. It is that lazy. It feels so relieving. I suddenly felt I was screaming rather than speaking. So this Ajagara, it doesn't hunt. So some of its hunger was so killing that it came out in search of food. And the nearest possible was Nanda Baba sleeping. And there are others also. Nanda, Sunanda, Yasha, there were many people sleeping there. The nearest possible was Nanda, Krishna's father, and started pulling from his feet, caught hold of his feet and started eating. So as soon as something grabbed Nanda Baba, he started shouting. All these people had lit up a campfire. So they picked that burning firewood and came running, hitting on this snake. As if nothing happened, probably intense hunger, nothing else mattered. It did not get even anywhere disturbed by these burning sticks. So there was some dry wood, dry grass underneath, they burnt it. It just moved out of that place but did not leave Nanda Baba. So they had tried all that they could. So immediately, Nanda Baba, in his own despair moment, started shouting, "Hey Krishna!" Krishna, he didn't call him thinking that the snake would be done, we would be done with it. But then the snake was not leaving him, so he started calling out for his Krishna. Hey Krishna, mam grasate sarpaha. This sarpa, this snake has been eating me. Come running, O son. The snake seems to have already eaten half of me. Come fast running. As soon as the Lord heard about his father shouting and the others' commotion, he came in running. He came in running and he did nothing. He just put his foot on the tail of that snake. See, that is a beauty. We usually have strength, but we misuse our strength without even understanding where to use it or where not to use it. He didn't misunderstand that this snake would have been another Rakshasa. So he just put his foot on it. Just by the mere touch of the Lord's feet. You know, in Ramayana there is another incident. The touch of the Lord's feet, the stone turned into a lady. Similarly here, this snake, python, turned into a very shiny, illumining body. A person emerged from there. So that sarpaha uvacha. It will be weird to imagine, sarpa suddenly getting up and started speaking. No, it had gotten rid of its snake's form, and then in the form of this illumining body, that who was the sarpa so far started speaking. Aham vidyadhara kaschit sudarshana iti shrutaha shriya swarupa sampatya vimane nacharam dishaha. He says, I was once a Vidyadhara. As the name suggests, Vidyam Dharati. The one who holds on to knowledge. Vidyam Dharati. Various schools of knowledge, and he was not just Vidyadhara who was holding on to great sacred knowledge, but he was also Rupa Yavana Saundaryaha. He was having a very beautiful form, very smart, very beautiful form that he was having. And then, Sampatyaha api, he was having lots of wealth. So much that he says, Vimanena acharam dishaha. He used to fly his own flight. We hear that, right? When people are rich, they start owning their own Boeings and jetters. They fly it themselves. So Vidyadhara, he was one such. And he would be constantly going from one loka to the other, traveling in his Vimana. So it was not just the ordinary jet, it was a space shuttle that he owned, which could move from one loka to the other loka. Not from one continent to the other, one loka to the other loka. Once he visited Earth, and while he was on Earth, he saw certain rishi. They were belonging to the lineage of Angirasa, and they were very kurupinaha. They were not looking very pleasant, approachable. So he looked at them and teased them from his Vimana. This kind of attitude, full of arrogance, full of everything. When you're full of everything, you lose balance. And then from his Vimana, he said, look at those ugly looking Brahmanas. Something like that, he commented on them. He would have left. But he came down and made sure that they heard it and they reacted to it. Until then, he kept on twisting his fortune. Then they got, these brahmanas got irritated, and they took some water and did sharper. They say, you take pride in your form? May you get the ugliest form like a python. So right from his vimana, he fell down into this form of python. So he says, when the brahmanas cursed me, I did not know that it would be such a blessing. At that time, I really felt sorry for myself. But I think if the result is being touched by your feet, whatever mistake I did, it was worth it. But not that I would carry that arrogance. But now that I have had the darshan of the Lord, which even greatest rishis do not have, then having reassured myself that moksha is guaranteed, now I'll straighten up my act. I have been very arrogant. I think I have to change myself. And this tapasya of being a python has changed me enough. And probably it is because of that the result is that I have been blessed by your touch. Or you are compassionate enough, as you have been compassionate on various other creatures, to bless me, grow back to this Vidyadhara stature. So then he looks at the Lord and he says, and did some stuti, and says, can I get back to my Vidyadhara loka? So thus this Sudarshana, it was this Vidyadhara's name, he having been redeemed of his curse, gets back to his own place and he gets back his Vimana. Then what happened in the same, maybe in few weeks' time, kadachit, see, when you are with Krishna, in his life there is something always happening. In people who are surrounding him, always something is happening. He does not allow people to be quiet, sit quiet. He is the happening thing around. He was just, 3 months old, that he got the baby, the Putana coming in, just in 3 months' time. Since then till now, constantly there have been visitors trying to capture, trying to make sure that Lord Krishna is no more. So there was another person, kadachit. Govindaha Ramaha Adbhuta Vikramaha. Govinda, Lord Sri Krishna, in the Pitambara, and Lord Balarama was in Neelambara. So Pitambara and Neelambara. Very contrasting colors, very beautiful colors. And they were all very beautifully decked. They were having hands on each other. And the way it is described, it is very beautiful. If you can imagine, both of them little children, the hands on each other. They were having their legs swing up and down as they were walking. So as they were kicking some mud, dust into the air, Lord Krishna started humming a tune. And pretty soon, Balaramji caught up with that tune. As Balaramji caught up with that tune, Sri Krishna started whistling that tune. Not playing on the flute, but he was whistling that tune. Nisha Mukham. And probably it was the Sayankala time. It was the evening time. Evening time, the cows had already come back and they had already taken shower. And now they were on an evening village stroll. Why? Just like that. Both felt like going around and they started walking around. And it was a very melodious, beautiful tune. As they were singing, All these mothers who were feeding their children or husbands, wives, as they were feeding, stepped out into their front yard or in the balconies. Imagine poor kids who were being fed, because they had to be fed, they also came to the balcony to be fed. But all of them were now engaged with Lord Krishna and Balarama, singing some strange but very captivating music. Evam vikridito swairam gayatoho sampramattavat shankachuda iti khyataha dhanadanu charo abhyagat. There was a Shankachudan named Yaksha. He was very close to Kubera, Kubera's Anuchara, one of the persons, very key persons working for Kubera. Just to test if he was the Lord Parabrahma Paramatma who is in the form of Krishna. I just described that as Lord was singing, all these women folk and all these kids, everybody were in their balconies or front yard. As the Lord and Balarama were seeing, this Shankachuda took a big form and then swept, as with his hand he swept, all the women folk, children, cows, everything he just grabbed and started running. Why did he start running? Because he wanted to test if this Krishna was that Parabrahma Paramatma. Now he has heard from many people that this Krishna was that Supreme. So Balramji and Krishna looked at each other, and these people were already frightened. They were shouting on their top of their voices, "Hey Krishna, hey Rama, Rakshatu, Rakshatu." So they looked at each other. So they winked at each other, and they both started running behind him. And pretty soon they caught up with this Shankachuda, who was really running very fast, thought that nobody could match his speed, turned to his right side. So there was Krishna running next to him. He said hi. So he got a little scared, turned to the other side. There was Balarama saying hi. So now he got so frightened that he dropped all this which he had grabbed. He just dropped all of them, and the Lord made a sign to Balarama, "Stay back, take care of them." And Lord started running in a playful manner behind this Shankachuda, almost touching him, telling him that he's just right behind him, and he would start running faster. And suddenly he overtakes him, comes in front of him, stops him by his throat, and lifts him out into the air. So he's like running. Imagine if you're suddenly running. I don't know if ever it has happened. You're on a treadmill. Has it ever happened? You're on a treadmill and the power goes off. You know what will happen? And talking out of experience, you are running on the treadmill and suddenly that which is moving stops. You fall such a good fall. But not allowing him to fall, he caught him and picked him up in the air. So he was like still, his legs were moving, but with no effect. Well, treadmill also has the same thing. You keep running, getting nowhere. This fellow also was moving his feet, but reaching nowhere. So he left him. He was so tired. Suddenly, when you are in such speed and you suddenly stop somebody and they have had a few breaths, and then you drop them, He didn't have that speed to pick up. No, he was so tired and the tiredness was taking over. Then he realized that that one who had caught him, he's standing next to him. Realizing that he started picking up, he again caught him. And as though he didn't move from that place, he just caught him again. Caught him again, and then all these Vidyadharas have a money, a jewel on their forehead. So while grabbing that money from that jewel from his forehead, the Vidyadhara was put to rest. Not Vidyadhara, sorry, this Yaksha was put to rest. And he came back to Balramji and said, "You have done an awesome job." And he gave that money as a gift. Money as a gift to the Lord, to Balramji. They said, "This is a very beautiful money. It will be because he wore blue clothes, Neelambara. So this money was also similar. They said, it will match with your clothes. So please wear it." And then they came back. Now as they came back, in Vrindavan, they had only one thing to gossip about. They had only one thing which made a flash news. They had only one thing that they shared, one thing that they communicated, because nothing else other than this mattered to anybody. So as soon as all these women, children and others who were grabbed by these yaksha came back, they all flocked, the entire village flocked around them, and everybody started giving their version of it. This Shankachuda was holding us, and I was almost falling off, and then I was holding on to this, and I was watching. Krishna was running behind, and he was looking so amazing. Somebody is carrying you, kidnapping you. When Krishna is around, who dare touch us? Even if somebody does touch us, sooner than later Lord is going to come and protect us anyway. But still, to scare this fellow, we all shouted on the top of our voice, "Hey Rama, hey Krishna, protect us." Now, hearing us scream, this fellow started increasing the speed as he thought he could beat Rama and Krishna. But then Balramji stayed back, and then Krishna did this, and then so they started talking about that day's flash news. Every day there would be something happening with Krishna and Balarama, and all these gopis, they would be engrossed only in that thought of Lord. So continuing, in the evenings they had all these gossips because their children came back. So Shukadev ji says, this particular part is called the Yugala Gita. Yugala Gita, wherein traditionally it has come to a folk level, wherein there is all these women sitting and they are singing with a dholak, and then they have the bells, and they have lots of musical instruments. And whatever has happened in their life, they share it over music. They put it in a beautiful poetry format and they share it along with themselves. So in this Yugala Gita, which is in the 35th chapter, Shukadev ji says, Gopya Krishne Vanam Yate. When Krishna leaves for the forest, what do these gopis do? Until they see him in the horizon, small little thing, vanished. Till then they will be watching. Is Krishna gone? I still see that little yellow and blue shade there. So till then they are busy with Krishna. Agreed. So after Krishna has gone to the Vana, until he comes back, what is the day routine of these gopis? So Shukadev ji says, let me take you to their world. This is how they would, or this is what they would be doing. So they would sit, they have fed their husbands and they have done all their duties. And usually in a village, women folk do many things and as a combined effort. Today to imagine all that, it is little difficult, because today water comes right into your any faucet, wherever you have that faucet fixed. In those days they had to go all the way to Yamunaji, pick that water, and since they have already gone that far, they have couple of other tasks which has to do with plenty of water. Finish that up and come back. Come back with 4 or 5 pots of water, which will be sufficient for that day. This is drinking water I am talking about. The other water, for other purposes there is enough available. For drinking water, they had certain place that they would go and come. So there will be that one in one episode. They did not have washers and dryers. So they would go to the nearest lake. It would not be alone going. There also 10-15 women folk will go to that river side, and they have certain timings. See, there is no point when you go washing your clothes in midday. We have gone to that area anywhere in India actually. Midday is not good for washing. Because of that heat, you will be washed out. That heat is to be well utilized. So they go in that early morning times after the kids and men folk have left. So they take various pots, and that description Surdas ji gives. They walk thumaka, they walk with swinging, with like 6-7 pots per person. 3 on their head and 2 on one side, and there is 1 pot on the other side. Oh, poor ladies, they were all so hardworking and probably must have been tired. No, they had every excuse to go out, so that they can sit and talk about their beloved, their Lord Krishna, to everybody. So as they were going, they would have one bundle of clothes, so that they could wash it also. Wash it, fill these pots, and come back home. While coming back home, probably pick couple of those leafy vegetables, roots here and there, some wild berries. Pick that also. As they were doing, I don't know if you have been in a village environment. So when you are coming back after fetching water, there right on the village roads, you will find these tamarind trees or the guava trees. In our village, the most famous was, of course, tamarind tree was there, was the coconuts. I think I have shared my experience. We were like 14-15 of us cousins. I'm talking only of boys. So we would pick the backyard of the day, until we got busted. And then, when that backyard should have at least 30-40 coconuts. 15 of us, 2 at least each. And that too, every coconut should be at least mid-size, if not mid-size. We would not pull them down. 4 of them watching in 4 corners, 5-6 trees, 5-6 of us would climb. take a long nail. From the top there are 3 holes. One hole is very soft. Pierce through it, put a straw, drink all the coconut water. Right on the tree. After a week, the entire garden, the coconuts, while they are still hanging there, turn brown. That was a pick. So growing up in villages is a different fun. No fruit ever purchased. A pomegranate here, a guava here, or mangoes. The best season was, they were still, they're not even the raw mango, the green ones, they're still tender ones. There was a different kick in getting those mangoes. And we would always carry some packet of salt and chili powder, some pepper powder, red pepper. And break it, as it lands, dust it off. Cleaning, kuch nahi. Dust it off, cut it, and just tear it open, dip it in that, and then share and eat. I mean, that taste you don't get anywhere else. So while these ladies were, doing various things, they would pick some fruits here, some vegetables here, some green leafy things here, and they would come back home. So while they were doing these various chores, this is where probably the poets have gone ahead and said, they would go to other villages selling buttermilk, butter, milk, yogurt. Instead of telling that, they have to announce what they are brought to sell. So most of them in the other villages by that time had already known. These Vrindavan ladies, I think they have gone little, something has happened to them. When they announce what they are selling, they say, Krishna for sale, Krishna for sale. अरे दो भैया दो मटकी कृष्ण खरीद लो दो भैया. So they understood, they must have brought something from Vrindavan. Until they put it down, we will not know what they have brought. They have got so consumed with this thought of Krishna that when these customers ask, how much is it? 3-4 Krishna de do, give us 2-3 Krishna back. You have to ask $2-3 or 2-3 rupees. Instead, these people would be asking, they would always be in thought of Krishna, that their vocabulary had changed. Like even in, say, day-to-day life, those of you who come to the mission regularly, and there is, we for our namaste, goodbye, for everything we say Hari Om. Now when do you understand that this coming here has gotten deep into your system, even in your offices? Your cell phone rings, King, you pick up, Hari Om. What? And people on the other side are also like, probably this fellow said, how are you? I am fine, how are you? Similarly, the other villagers probably understood that these gopis coming from Vrindavan, when they say Krishna, they mean they have got something to sell. And when in between doing all these chores, whenever they find time, there will be an old tree in the intersection, and around that old tree there are nice seating arrangements made. Usually in the evenings the men folks sit. While coming back from their such chores, when they find a good gathering, they would sit there and share their stories. And they would have their pots and everything ready. So they would start playing music on that pot. people from Vrindavan, I have heard from Mahatmas, they said, just but because they were born in Vrindavan, music and dance was not something that was to be taught to them. It came pretty natural. They could hum, sing, dance. Why? Because they were always in the state of celebration. See, for the rest of us who are never in that celebrating mode, we have to learn those mudras. And sometimes pretend that we are also celebrating by doing this. But those who are already celebrating, it was pretty natural flow for them to sing and dance. So in a very melodious way, like yesterday we saw, that even when they were crying, in their pangs of separation for Lord Krishna, their crying had also a rhythm to it, a tune to it. It was very melodious. Their crying also was melodious. If their crying itself was melodious, imagine their singing. How much more beautiful and enchanting it would have been. So what would they do? Their topics, as I said, it was only Krishna. Sometimes it was filled with envy. Envy with whom? They had only one thing to pick. They envied Lord Krishna's flute. That flute, it stays with him 24/7. The other things change, keep changing. But that flute, so everybody shared that same feeling, that they were jealous of that flute. I said, how blessed that inanimate flute would have been to be on that lips of Lord Krishna, tender lips of Lord Krishna, 24/7. We get only those few glances here and there. And that flute, Lord breathes into it. The flute was their topic of envy. Sometimes they would share, they would help Yashoda Rani in doing what? The sandal paste. Have you ever tried pulling out sandal paste? It's one of the most boring, treacherous jobs that you could ever end up doing. Have you ever tried? There is that sand grinding stone and they have sandalwood. You pour water. You keep grinding that to get, these are the tea candle, or what do you call them? Tea light, okay. To get half of this filled, it will take 3 hours. I'm not kidding. To get half of this filled, it takes 3 hours. I'm not talking of a semi-liquid, I'm talking of a solid paste. These ladies would bring chandana enough for both Balarama and Krishna for the entire body. When did they find time to do it? So their point of discussion would be, the other day in chandana I added little kesar, the saffron, and the color that it gave, it was so pretty on Krishna, because there is bluish hue on his body. With the saffron being added, it had little golden color to that chandana, and Lord Krishna's forehead was shining because of that chandana. I think better than saffron there was, when I added turmeric, a pinch of turmeric in it, and that yellowish shade that it came, it matched with his dhoti. He was looking so pretty. So they would go on with the Chandana, discussion of Chandana. Then they would discuss about, his feather, the peacock feather that he would carry. And they would compare which one was the best one. See, usually when we talk about best comparisons, we talk about, my best, and, here the comparison was that which adorned the Lord the best. Other than that, they had no other comparisons. Sometimes they would get into such an overwhelming love mood that they would start singing. Don't move here and there, sit in one place, okay? So they would look at the Lord, and in such overwhelming love, they would find that it is the same kind of poetry which Vallabhacharya wrote. Adharam madhuram. Start from his face. Nayanam madhuram. Hasitam madhuram. Everything about the Lord was nothing other than sweetness, his sweetness incarnate. And when they had nothing else, they would go to Yashoda Rani. One pretext or the other. And start complaining. Now by this time Yashoda Rani had also gotten used to this. In beginning she was also like overwhelmed, like, what kind of son is he? Constantly I am getting complaints. Then she understood that they were in love with Lord Krishna, so they came. They wanted a reason for them to come. Later she understood that they came, when they did not find Lord, they came in at least to see the other reminiscent effects of the Lord at home, so that they could revel about Lord. His clothes were washed, so they would volunteer. I don't know if they had a sign-up sheet. Today this gopi will wash, tomorrow that gopi will wash. But just to hang around with Yashoda ji, so she would give more insight, more stories about Lord Krishna. Until when? Until Godhuli. Godhuli Samaya is like 3:34, max 4:15. Godhuli is the time when all the cows with their calf are coming back. Usually cows go in one direction, calves go in other direction. So they both come back in the same time. If both go in the same direction, then there is no benefit either for the cow or for the calf. So when they were coming back, till that time, why? That is when Lord Krishna comes back. Sometimes he is with his friends. Sometimes he is riding a bull. Sometimes he is sitting on a buffalo. It's very funny. You should go and sit once. You will know. Cows are intelligent. Less intelligent than cow are buffaloes. The least intelligent are the yak. Sat on all of them. The yak's brain is very funny. If it sees that its head goes through, unmindful of the fact whether its body goes through or not, it just gets in. And while doing Kailash Parikrama, and I walked, but there are others who it was fun to watch. They would be traveling, they would be sitting on this yak. And this yak, it doesn't have a sensation for its own body. What will it have sensation for somebody else sitting on it? So it will get in between those stones, and these people are freaking out. And the reason why I asked about buffaloes, whenever they feel, they're in the mood of chewing their cud, it doesn't matter where they are. They stop. Until they are finished out of that mood, they will not move from there. So Krishna would be coming in one of these, or dancing with the friends sometimes. Sometimes the cow is moving and the Lord Krishna is like dancing around, and all these gopas are dancing around him. And there is a description. How do you identify who is Krishna and who is the other gopas? Because all of them have thick mud on their face. They are walking behind the cow. Depending on the season. In summer season it is dust. In rainy season it is kichad. So one way or the other, the godhuli is on them. So they recognize Krishna and Balarama with the color code. Krishna always loved wearing Pitambara, and Balarama always loved wearing Neelambara, dark bluish color. So they would come back. Until then, meaning what? Whether it was daytime or nighttime, whether it was doing their chores, whether it was their fulfilling their responsibilities, taking care of their family, their children, their spouses, their in-laws, whatever were their responsibilities and chores that they had to do while performing, their thoughts was in constant samadhi with the Lord alone. Their only thought that they had entertained was Lord and none other than the Lord. Now what happened? Suddenly, Narayana. You know whom I am talking about? Narad Muni Bhagavan appeared. He saw that all these Rakshasas were getting killed. Thak, one after the other done. The pace of the story was not getting faster. There was much to accomplish and it was getting slow. So Naradji came into picture. So what did Naradji do? So Naradji went directly to our Kamsa Maharaj. He said, "Hey Kamsa, you are sitting here enjoying your life. Do you know that your EXP date is soon arriving?" In every produce that you get in the market, you have two dates. One is the MFG and the second one is the EXP. So Narada goes and tells, you are destined to die on such a day. Do you know that? That who has to kill you? This Kamsa got angry with Narada. I said, I am just the messenger. Probably that was where the statement, the cliche was born. Don't shoot the messenger. I am just delivering the message. And that too because I know you, Kamsa. Would I ever do something to harm you? I have just come to warn you so that you can protect yourself. See, Narada, the way he uses his technology, whatever he advises, depending on that person's mentality, to the one that Narada has advised, they were always blessed with darshan of Lord. but he is wrongly represented, that he is a troublemaker. No, I would invite such troublemakers if my end result is that I have darshan of Lord. So he said, I'll tell you a secret, Narada said to Kamsa. Remember the eighth one that you wanted to kill, threw her into the air, never came back, warned you that there was somebody born and you started sending Putana and everybody. That was actually not Vasudeva's child. Vasudeva had given, Devaki ji had given birth to Krishna, and this Krishna, because Vasudeva was scared that you would kill, Vasudeva ji shifted him to Gokula. And the girl who was born to Yashoda ji was brought back with the instructions of the Lord. Because the Lord gives them darshan and gives them these instructions. So he brought it back. That was Maya Devi who was born to Yashoda. So your Kala is already born. Your Kala, your time is already born. And he gives them the exact GPS match. He said, this is the location where you have to go search. He gets mad with Devaki and Vasudeva. Thinking that he had taken care of the eighth child, he had let them free. He called for them. Again bound them in chains, put them back in the cellar. And then he got hold of all his, Vinashakale Viparita Buddhi. So, Chanura, Mushtika, all kinds of these papis that were there around him, he ordered them to assemble for an important meeting. So they had an important situation room to analyze the situation room, and they all gathered in. So then Kamsa gave this plan of action. He said to Arishtasura, he said, you go. Arishtasura and Keshi, you both go and make sure that you kill this Rama and Krishna, Balarama and Krishna. And those who were left, Chanura, Mushtika and the rest of them, said, this is my strategy. We are going to announce a big show in Mathura. A big show which will be called Dhanusha Yajna. And what was the purpose? That one who owns that Dhanusha, that bow of Lord Shiva, cannot be touched by anybody. This was a thought that somebody had given to this Kamsa. He said, we'll have Dhanusha Yajna. On the side, we will have all these various things to play and enjoy. So he gave the structure plan, he gave all the ideas. He said, we will send somebody to get these two. I said, you just send Arishtasura and Keshi. I said, if they are not successful. Because what we have found that most of our asuras who died were around Gokul and Vrindavan. So maybe it was this Balarama and Krishna. If they escape from these Keshi and Arishtasura, what we will do is, we have Kuvalaya Pida. There is a very powerful elephant. We will intoxicate that Kuvalaya Pida and let it loose on this Balarama and Krishna as they are entering into Mathura. So that right in the entrance they will be crushed under that Kuvalaya Pida. If they escape that. Then Chanura and Mushtika, You both have to take care that you have to entice them in coming and playing, wrestling with you, and finish them off. If even then I will jump into the field, take care of this Krishna, Balaram and the entire Yaduvamshis. I have one father, that Ugrasena. He is old, but his attachment to be the ruler has not died. Though he is still in the prison, he had already put him in the prison, but still dreams about being the king. Like him, I will put every other Yaduvamshi into the prison. Then we will have Ishtarajya. What kind of Ishtarajya? You know my old father-in-law? You know who was his father-in-law? Jarasandha. Jarasandha was his father-in-law. Now who was his friends? His friends were various kinds. 90% of them were asuras. The other 10% were all those dushta rajas who would not be befriended by anybody else. And to such bunch, he wanted to be the ruler. And this was his mega strategy. So he said, go prepare for all this, go fast. As he sent them on their individual job descriptions given. Now what happened here? Arishtasura comes to Vrindavana. Now Arishtasura came in the form of a bull. He was looking very terrible. Most of the bulls around in Vrindavan, Gokul, Mathura, that area, if you look into their eyes, you will find even today, you will find them being very sadhu, very pious, very innocent, calm, composed look. Just by looking into this Arishtasura who had come in the form of a bull, you could tell this bull doesn't belong to Vrindavan. Unlike those bulls, it is totally different. It has a huge hump on the back and it looks ugly, big, with such sharp horns. So it started running, pacing through the entire Vrindavan in search of Krishna and Balarama. So Krishna saw that. So Arishtasura also saw Krishna. So Krishna said, Arishtasura like a typical bull with a tail raised. And when they are really agitated, irritated. And with the Lord Krishna wearing yellow, it was more inviting for this Arishtasura. With, digging deep into the earth, start bouncing towards the Lord. As this Arishtasura was about to hit into the Lord, he briskly moved aside and caught hold of this Arishtasura from behind, catching hold of its legs. Usually when they miss their target, so they go with the support of their back legs, turn around and come and attack. So with their hind legs caught, very helpless. So the hind legs caught, the Lord came to the front and nudged with his knees on the front legs, and this Arishtasura fell, and it seemed as though that he fell down to earth, and what killed him was his own weight. He had grown in such size that his own weight killed him. Then came Keshi. Keshi also was a very Bhayankara Asura, who was in the form of a horse. He is one of the last one of the demons to be killed in Vrindavan. Then we move, the entire picture shifts to Mathura. So this Keshi also got killed by the Lord. As this was happening, back in Mathura, Kamsa called in Akrura. So they were happening simultaneously. As this was happening, Kamsa was scheming. So in his bigger scheme, he called Akrura. Akruraji was a great devotee of the Lord Narayana, which even Kamsa knew, which entire Mathura people knew. And to his name, Krura means cruel. Akrura meaning the one who was very, very soft-natured. He was a soft-natured person that everybody in Mathura knew. And he held a very key position in Mathura assembly. Kamsa called him. He said, why don't you go as my representative to Vrindavan? In Nanda Baba's house, there are these two kids. These are supposed to be my time and my death. Why don't you invite them to Mathura, so that with my own hands I'll take care of these two devils. Who were the two devils? Krishna and Balaram. As Akrurji was hearing it, he was feeling very sad, very bad. On the other hand, suddenly his positivity took over. He turned around to Kamsa and said, "Thank you," and left. He had heard about Balaram and Krishna, who Akrurji. And he was holding an important post in Kamsa's kingdom. And Kamsa did not like anybody going to Vrindavan without him knowing. So Akrura was eagerly waiting for an opportune moment to go visit these two. And here comes Kamsa, who is predicted to be killed by this Balarama and Krishna, calling this Akrura to go fetch them. He said, maybe my entire vrata, my entire puja, my entire sadhana phala is this moment that I have been so eagerly waiting for. So Akrurji started thinking about this, and the very next day morning left for Vrindavan. As he was reaching Vrindavan, messengers, they all had their own spies and they had their own agents. The information had already reached Vrindavan. One of such agents, when they were speaking to Nanda Baba, Yashoda Maiya overheard this conversation. Overheard this conversation that Akrura is coming to take Krishna and Balarama to Mathura. And the pain that she went through, it cannot be even put in words. I was hearing it from Akhandananda Maharaj. He used to say that the sudden idea of her being separated from Krishna and Balarama struck so deep with her, affecting her inside, that she did not find that it is any more worthy to talk about anything else in the world. They say that after this, she seldom spoke to anybody. Akruraji arrives. So Akruraji in his own mind has been planning, thinking, how will I meet Lord? Should I go directly hug them? Should I first prostrate and then hug them? What should I do? So as he was entering into Vrindavan, he suddenly stopped his chariot because he recognized something spectacular on the road, which is very common for Vrindavan people. But for him it was the first time it appeared very spectacular. There were two tiny footprints. And he knew that these footprints were none other than Lord Krishna's. As they read in palmistry, they read the rekha, the lines of the palms. Similarly, they have for the foot. It comes in the Hasta Samudrika Lakshana. And the Lord's feet had Shankha, Chakra, Yantra, then there was a Dhwaja. There are all these great symbol signs in the footprints of the Lord. As soon as he saw it, he was so overwhelmed that Narayana that he was worshipping all these years, probably in the form of a murti, that Narayana's miniature feet size. He was so overwhelmed. As he got down, touched, his whole body went into such horripilations, because he was going to meet the beloved of his heart. And every step since that footstep that he recognized as the Lord, every next footstep, he started prostrating to those footsteps until he reached Krishna Balarama's house, Nanda Baba's house. So as soon as he reached, as soon as this Akrura reached to Vraja, he gets into the entrance and Krishna and Balarama, they look at Akruraji coming. Just with the darshan of these two, he had as though it was Bhava Samadhi right there. His entire body stiffened. His eyes were overflowing with water. His entire body went through a romancha. And even if he wanted to utter a word, not a single word would come out of his mouth. It was the first time the Lord of his heart he was seeing. As he was trying to bend down and prostrate to Rama and Krishna, one hand was held by Krishna, the other hand was held by Balarama, and both of them did not allow him get down, stoop down, but gave him a big, tight hug. After hugging him, held both of his hands and took him to the main room. And it is the Athitya, the hospitality in the early days, that when an Athithi comes into the house, you first welcome them with the Purna Kumbha or Arati, welcome them inside home, wash their feet, then give them fresh clothes so that they can go take shower. So Akruraji was given all these hospitalities. he came back after having a shower, and then Balramji and the entire Nand Baba's household served as though he was Lord Narayana himself. Who was serving him? Lord Krishna. Atithi Devo Bhava. Lord Krishna himself serving Akrura. And after having fed him with food, he was sitting in the swing. So Balramji on one side, Krishna on one side, sat down, held his feet and gave a good massage to his feet and asked him if he would like to go and rest. So there is a proper room that was arranged for Akrura's hospitality. They showed him the room and asked him to retire. As Balarama left, Krishna turned to Akrurji and looks straight into the eyes. Says, I know why you have come. I know the exact reason who has sent you. By the way, how is my mama? That Buddhihina Kamsa, how is he? So all the atrocities that are done by Kamsa are first explained by Akrurji. And then gives him the information. I actually came here as the ambassador of that Kamsa to invite you. I said, I know. There is going to be a good muhurta for Dhanusha Yajna and he is going to do that. Because that is the muhurta which will be the last muhurta for him. In fact, I had been eagerly waiting for one like you to come and invite. You already delayed. That is why Naradji had gone, because the process was getting delayed. Then it was decided that the very next day morning, Krishna would leave to Mathura. In next couple of chapters I would skip because it is very painful, Baba. Painful because of all the gopis, especially about Yashoda Maiya. It cannot be explained. The suffering that they had to go through in separating themselves from Krishna is something that cannot be put in words. So I'll skip through those 2-3 chapters. Then Krishna, the very next day morning, got up before the entire Vrindavan could get up. Got up along with his brother, silently got into the chariot of Akrurji. By this time, his father Nanda Baba had gathered all the men folk and ordered that there is an invitation from the king and that we have to go yathochita. I mean, like we have to go with the proper gifts and everything that we have to do as being a part of his kingdom. So gather all milk, yogurt or butter and all the wealth that we have that we can take as gift for this king. Yoke all your bullock carts and be ready. As soon as Krishna leaves in the Ratha, we will leave in our bullock carts. Now here Krishna and Balarama thought that before Vrindavan could wake up, they would leave. Krishna had already anticipated, if ever that Vrindavan slept. So all these gopis were still hanging around in that place. and they had some deep sensation within. This somehow will be one of our last glimpses of the Lord. Their gut feeling. With tears overflowing in their eyes. Right since Krishna was born till this moment, they were not separated from him even for a day, even for a moment. So they all stood there waiting for the Lord to give them some parting message. But then, I'm just telling you from the standpoint of these gopis and Yashoda Maiya. In one of the Samhitas, it is explained that it took a while for Balaramji to console Krishna to get to Mathura. Yes, he was also equally attached to these gopis and Mother Yashoda. And he was in fact scared that if I go, I don't know what will happen to Mother. She has such a soft heart, I don't know what will happen to her. So there is one beautiful song in which the poet says, if the quantity of tears of all the gopis, Yashoda Rani, Nanda Baba, everybody put together, be compared to Krishna, they were like 2 drops. And it took an effort from Balaramji to console this Krishna to get ready and keep moving to Mathura. It was not that he didn't want to speak to Yashoda ji or these gopis. He could not speak to them. He was so overwhelmed with his own emotions that he knew he couldn't utter a word. How lucky these Vrindavan Vasis must have been. We cry for the Lord. And here the Lord had tears for these Vrindavan Vasis. So because he couldn't say a word, he sent after leaving Vrindavan, he sent one of the horsemen back to these ladies waiting there with a message. Go tell them, I will be back. It's a very strategic message that he sent back. What can we expect of Krishna? We will understand this later in next chapter, in next canto, where the message that he sent to us, I will be back. And because they had started so early in the morning, after they had crossed their journey halfway through, they reached to a very beautiful spot on Yamuna Nadi. There, Akrurji stopped. He said, here can we freshen up and then move to Mathura, because we woke up early in the morning and left Vrindavan. We didn't really get opportunity to freshen up. So let us pause here. Let us allow Akrurji, Balramji and Krishnaji their time to freshen up. What happened at that time, that we will see tomorrow. I am just going to skip through those 2-3 chapters. Usually I am not a very emotional person, but these 3 chapters can't bear that, even to explain. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम। श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम।